Hello, everyone. Welcome to English Insights. Today, we will explore the strange and fascinating world of Sir Isaac Newton, one of the greatest scientists in history. Many people know him for the law of gravity, but few know about his secret experiments and unusual habits. Newton was not only a man of science, he was also full of curiosity, mystery, and emotion. Why did he look at the sun with his own eyes? Why did he study magic and alchemy? And what can these stories tell us about the human side of a genius? This story will help you improve your English listening skills while learning about one of the most brilliant minds of all time. Now, let's get started. Part 1. The Boy Who Loved to Watch the Sky. Isaac Newton was born in 1643 in a small village called Woolsthorpe in England. His father died before he was born, and his mother married again when he was very young. Because of this, Newton grew up with his grandmother. Many people believe this made him feel lonely, but it also gave him a quiet place to think and dream. From a young age, Newton loved to make things. He built small machines using wood, paper, and metal. He made a little windmill that could move with the air, and even a water clock that showed time. People in the village thought he was a strange boy, always working alone and asking many questions. But Newton's favorite thing was the sky. He spent hours watching the sun, the moon, and the stars. He often asked himself how they moved and why they did not fall. These simple questions later became the start of his great discoveries. When it rained, he watched how water moved on the ground. When the wind blew, he tried to understand its power. For him, every small thing in nature was a secret to learn. At school, Newton was not the best student at first. He was quiet, shy, and often stayed by himself. But one day, after a classmate pushed him, Newton decided to become the best in the class, to show his strength. From that day, he worked harder than anyone else. Soon, his teachers saw that he had great talent for math and science. When he grew older, Newton went to study at the University of Cambridge. There, he found many books about stars, light, and numbers. These subjects opened his mind to new ideas about how the world works. He began to write down his thoughts in notebooks, drawing pictures, and trying small experiments. Even when other students went out to have fun, Newton liked to stay in his room, reading and thinking. People who knew him said he was very focused and curious. He wanted to understand everything, from how light moves to why things fall. No question was too small for him. For Newton, learning was not only about reading books. It was also about watching the world around him. This love for nature and discovery never left him. The quiet boy from Woolsthorpe later became one of the greatest minds in history. Part 2. The Apple That Changed Everything. One day, while Isaac Newton was sitting in his garden, he saw an apple fall from a tree. It was such a simple moment, but it changed the world. Newton started to ask himself, why did the apple fall straight down? Why not to the side or up into the sky? This small question became the beginning of one of the most important ideas in science, the law of gravity. At that time, Newton was already a student at the University of Cambridge. He loved studying, but his quiet and serious nature made him different from many others. When the Great Plague came to England in 1665, the university closed for safety. The Great Plague was a big disease in England in 1665. It killed about 100,000 people in London. It was spread by rats and fleas and made people very sick. Newton returned to his home in Woolsthorpe. While most people stayed home doing nothing, Newton used that time to think deeply and do experiments. Historians later called this period his Year of Wonders. In his home, Newton continued to study light, motion, and numbers. He used simple tools to test his ideas. Sometimes he worked late into the night, writing notes and drawing on paper. His mother worried about him because he almost forgot to eat and sleep. But Newton didn't care. His mind was full of questions, and he wanted to find the answers himself. The falling apple made Newton think that the same force that pulls apples to the ground might also control the moon and the stars. Could it be that one single rule works for both the earth and the sky? This idea was shocking at the time. People used to believe that things in heaven and things on earth followed different laws. Newton wanted to prove they were connected by one invisible force, gravity. Of course, Newton did not find the final answer right away. It took him many years of study, observation, and mathematics to build his theory. But that one apple started it all. It shows how a simple question can lead to a great discovery. After the plague ended, Newton went back to Cambridge. He was still a young man, but his ideas had already grown far beyond his age. He continued to test, calculate, and write. One day, these thoughts would become part of his great book, Principia Mathematica, which changed the way people understood the universe. The story of the apple may sound small, but it teaches an important lesson. Big ideas often come from small moments if we only stop and ask why. Part 3: Strange Experiments and Dangerous Curiosity. Isaac Newton was not only a great thinker, but also a brave experimenter. He wanted to test everything with his own hands, even when it was risky. His curiosity was so strong that he sometimes forgot about his own safety. One of his most famous and strange experiments was with light. Newton wanted to understand what light really was. Many people at that time believed that light was just one color. But Newton thought, It was made of many colors. To test this, he used a small glass prism. When sunlight passed through it, the light broke into a rainbow of colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. Newton was amazed. He realized that white light is not simple, but a mix of all colors. However, not all of Newton's experiments were safe. In one dangerous test, he wanted to see how the human eye reacts to light. To find out, he put a thin stick between his eye and the bone next to it, and pushed lightly to change the shape of his eyeball. It sounds painful, and it was. He saw strange colors and lights in his vision, and then he stopped. Later, he wrote carefully about what he saw. This shows how far he was ready to go to learn something new. Newton also became very interested in chemistry. He mixed different metals and powders, hoping to find special materials that could turn metal into gold. This kind of study was called alchemy. Many people in the 1600s believed in it, but it was not real science. Still, Newton wrote thousands of pages about alchemy, searching for the hidden truth of nature. Some historians say that he spent more time on these secret studies than on physics or mathematics. His friends and students often didn't know what he was doing. He worked alone, in silence, and didn't tell many people about his strange tests. Sometimes he forgot to eat or sleep, just focusing on his work for hours. He once said that he didn't care about fame or money, only about understanding how the world works. These experiments show two sides of Newton's mind: his deep curiosity and his dangerous passion for knowledge. He was willing to risk his comfort, even his health, to find answers. Many people today would never dare to do what he did. But for Newton, every question needed proof, and every idea had to be tested. His strange experiments remind us that true discovery often comes from courage. The courage to ask, to test, and to keep learning, no matter how hard it is. Part 4. The Man Behind the Genius. Isaac Newton is often remembered as a perfect genius, but behind his great mind was a very complicated man. He was quiet and serious, and he did not like to be around many people. Most of the time, he preferred to work alone in his room, surrounded by books, papers, and strange tools. Newton never married and had no close family of his own. His whole life was about study and discovery. Some people said he didn't know how to relax or have fun. He could spend days thinking about one small problem without speaking to anyone. Even when he became famous, he stayed shy and private. However, Newton was not always calm. He could become angry very easily, especially when someone questioned his ideas. He wanted people to respect his work, and when they did not, he felt hurt. One of his biggest arguments was with another scientist, Robert Hooke. Hooke also studied light and motion, and he claimed that Newton had taken some of his ideas. Newton denied it, but the fight between them lasted for years. Later, Newton also had a long dispute with the German scientist Gottfried Leibniz about who invented calculus first. Both men believed the other had copied their work. These conflicts showed that Newton had a strong sense of pride. He worked so hard for his discoveries that he couldn't stand when someone tried to take credit for them. At times, he even destroyed letters or refused to speak to people he once called friends. But there was another side to Newton, a deeply emotional one. He believed that everything in the universe followed rules created by God. He studied the Bible and wrote about religion for many years. For Newton, science and faith were not enemies. He thought that, by understanding nature, he was learning more about God's plan. This belief gave him a sense of peace when his scientific work became too heavy. In his later years, Newton worked for the government as the head of the Royal Mint, which made coins for England. There, he showed another part of his personality, strict, detailed, and very careful. He fought against people who made fake coins and improved the country's money system. So, who was Isaac Newton really? He was not just a man of logic and numbers. He was also a man of feelings, fears, and faith. His mind was sharp, but his heart was fragile. Behind every discovery was a person, a human being trying to understand both the universe and himself. Part 5. Discoveries that changed the world. Isaac Newton made discoveries that completely changed the way people understood the world. Before him, many people believed that natural events were controlled by magic or by the will of the gods. But Newton showed that the universe works by clear, simple rules, rules that can be tested and explained through science. One of his most famous ideas is the law of gravity. He discovered that everything in the universe attracts everything else. The apple falls to the ground, the moon moves around the earth, and the planets move around the sun, all because of gravity. This idea connected the sky and the earth under one single rule. It was something no one had ever done before. Newton also discovered the 3 laws of motion. These laws explain how and why things move. The first law says that objects keep moving unless something stops them. The second law says that the stronger the force, the faster something moves. The third law is very famous. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. These laws became the foundation of modern physics. Today, they are still used to design cars, rockets, and even airplanes. Newton also studied light and color. He showed that white light is made of many colors, which can be seen through a prism. This discovery helped scientists understand how rainbows are formed and how our eyes see color. Later, he built the first reflecting telescope, which used mirrors instead of glass lenses. This new telescope made images clearer and helped people study the stars in greater detail. Another big part of Newton's work was in mathematics. Together with the German scientist Gottfried Leibniz, he developed a new kind of math called calculus. It helps scientists measure change, things like speed, growth, and time. Even today, calculus is used in almost every field of science and engineering. In 1687, Newton collected many of his discoveries and ideas into one great book called Philosophia Naturalis Principia Mathematica, or simply Principia. This book explained the laws of motion, gravity, and the way planets move in space. It was one of the most important books ever written in science. Albert Einstein later said that Principia was the foundation of all modern physics. Newton's discoveries did not just change science, they changed how people think. He showed that the world is not full of mystery, but full of order. He proved that by asking questions, testing ideas, and using logic, humans can understand the secrets of nature. Because of Newton, we see the universe in a new way. Every time we look at the stars, launch a rocket, or drop a ball, we are using the knowledge he gave us. His discoveries are not just history, they are part of our everyday life. Part 6: The Legacy and the Human Side. When Isaac Newton became old, he was already one of the most famous men in England. He had changed science forever and helped people see the world in a new way. But his later life was quiet and very different from his younger years. Newton worked as the head of the Royal Mint, the place that made coins for the country. He took this job very seriously. He fought against people who made fake money and made sure that England's coins were honest and safe. Even in this job, Newton showed his careful and detailed way of thinking. As he grew older, Newton began to spend more time reading and thinking about religion. He believed that the laws of nature were created by God, and that science was a way to understand God's work. This idea made him different from some scientists today, who try to keep science and religion separate. For Newton, they were connected, two sides of the same truth. Although he was respected by kings and other scientists, Newton was still a lonely man. He never married and had no children. His home was filled with books, notes, and instruments, but not with people. Some said that he liked peace and quiet more than company. Others believed that his great intelligence made it hard for him to live a normal life. In 1727, Isaac Newton died at the age of 84. He was buried in Westminster Abbey in London, a place for the most important people in British history. His tomb is decorated with symbols of science, a globe, stars, and mathematical tools to show his great work for humanity. When he died, people across Europe spoke of him as the man who discovered the laws of the universe. Today, Newton's name still means genius. His ideas became the base for many modern inventions and technologies. Without his laws of motion and gravity, we could not build airplanes, satellites, or send rockets into space. But beyond the science, Newton's story also teaches us something about human nature, that great minds can be lonely, and that even the most logical person can be full of emotion and faith. Isaac Newton's legacy is not only written in books, it lives in the way we see the world, a world full of questions waiting for curious minds to find the answers.